call of the public, individuals may address the board on any relevant issue for up to 5 minutes. At the close of call to the public, board members cannot respond to any of the comments, but we may respond to criticism or ask staff to review a matter or ask that a matter be placed on a future agenda. Let's begin with Tony Tangalos. If you'll come to the microphone here, state your name for the record and your address, and then there's a clock here that'll help you know your time, but you have up to 5 minutes. Okay? Thank you for being here.
Okay, my name is Tony Tangalos. I'm a resident of Navajo County. I've been a member of the Kurt Cole Sustainable Living Center Board of Directors, where I live as the resident manager of the 10-acre off-grid sustainable housing community. I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for allowing me to speak to you today. I'm here to speak about what I believe is an existential threat to the future of Navajo County. It's very serious. There is a BLM proposed lease that's scheduled to go in September of this year for 4,200 acres of land in the Woodruff area. Melissa will be handing you maps of the Coconino Aquifer with a circle around the town of Woodruff, which is where the proposed 4,200 acres, the vast majority of them exist, which you will see on the map is in the heart of the Coconino Sandstone Aquifer. This potential lease, if approved, will invite the opportunity for fracking, which could destroy our Coconino Aquifer and our way of life here. Our goals today are to bring this to the board's attention. We would like the board to support asking the BLM to postpone the lease until there is some public comment opportunity for the public to comment on this proposed lease, which would invite fracking. We are also asking the board to ask the BLM to conduct extensive due diligence with an environmental impact study to study the effects of what the potential for fracking could do to our water supply. And we feel it's completely grossly negligent, irresponsible for the BLM to approve this lease without any due diligence, without any public comment, without any environmental impact study, which again, it's an existential threat to our water supply. So what we've handed out today are letters from the Kurt Cole Board of Directors, which we're sending to the BLM, to all state, county elected officials, to request that the BLM postpone the lease until after they do their due diligence, environmental impact study, and public comment. We've also handed you a letter that's being produced by a group that's called No Fracking Arizona. We only discovered this potential lease less than 2 weeks ago. It was 2 weeks ago today that it was in the White Mountain Independent. And in the last 2 weeks, we have achieved over 700 signatures on our petition to the BLM to postpone the lease until there's due diligence, environmental impact study, and public comment. So there is overwhelming community support. That's just in 2 weeks, we have over 700 signatures. So our goal again is to ask the board to support asking the BLM to postpone the lease, to ask the board to consider drafting a resolution to asking the BLM to postpone the lease. And we would also request, as one of the documents that you've been handed, formally to be on the agenda for the July 10th Board of Supervisors meeting so we can engage you in an active conversation about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Test. Just state your name and your address and 5 minutes.
Can I get my P.O. box? Because my address doesn't show up. All right. My name is Lisa Test. My address is P.O. Box 766, Holbrook, Arizona 86025. I'm a landowner in Navajo County. Okay. Is the clock going for you?
Just resetting it.
Okay. All right. Water is life. We are completely dependent on this resource, and exploiting, usurping, and polluting it would mean losing our local communities. Millions of gallons are used per well and contaminated with undisclosed amounts of toxic chemicals that have the potential to leak into the Coconino Aquifer. Poisonous fracking water is commonly injected deep into the earth, taking huge amounts of water out of usable cycles. Fracking chemicals change the viscosity of the water, lubricating the fault lines, and can cause earthquakes. Many contaminants cannot be safely removed from the water. With Arizona's long-term drought and Lake Mead running short on water supplies, this potable water might be essential to maintain life as we know it in more than just Navajo and Apache counties. Based on what has happened in Texas, water for fracking use continues even as water use by citizens is restricted. The loss of water is of grave concern, but also are the illnesses that have shown up due to the contaminated water supplies from fracking. This toxic brew is shown to contain more than 353 hazardous chemicals, including radium, uranium, methane, and more. Harms that have been documented include premature birth, learning difficulties, increase in diabetes, heart disease, cancer, endocrine abnormalities, cardiac and neurological problems, etc. This list of contaminants and related illnesses could take my whole 5 minutes. Next, the lack of RV parks, housing, or ability to deal with homelessness are going to be huge issues that these leases go through. Already every town in the northeastern quadrant of Arizona sends their homeless to the only homeless shelter in the region, which is Holbrook. I know they already have people sleeping on the floors and are over capacity because I visited them last month. Also, oil companies have the reputation of hiring tough men, some of whom have multiple felonies, charges for sexual crimes, and more. We have no control over the background checks nor say in what this quantity of people could do to our communities. Churches who welcome homeless will be filled with people sleeping on the floors and pews due to lack of infrastructure. The entire sense of community that we came here for will be disrupted. Fear toward the people coming for these gas jobs will multiply, and many problems will be landing on your county board of supervisors' agendas. We do not have the capacity to understand how this job boom will affect our rural communities. The workers targeted for jobs like this will have an effect like the gold rush. Fracking companies will destroy the land, water, and air while bringing in an energy that will create a massive overhaul of our way of life while spreading sickness and fear. Our once quiet communities will be trapped in a frightening wave of change, overwhelmed by the intensity of industrialization and everything that comes with it. Not only will the homeless and crime problems increase, but you will be having meetings about air quality, increased traffic, water quality, increased environmental illnesses, possibly earthquakes, broken lives of locals who depend on the land and water to be clean, and more. If we fail to plan, we plan to fail, and I for one see it coming and think we should act now. I see all of our lives disrupted. I see an increase in government meetings, stress, destruction, and contamination. There will be a mass exodus of people who came here to make this their home. It will be intolerable for us to witness the devastation of our homeland. The good people who came here for respite will be replaced with an army of people who are disproportionately reckless and who don't care about our home. When the destruction is over, they will leave to follow the next shiny penny. This has happened to other oil and gas booms around the country. Those of us that are left at the end of this nightmare will have broken hearts filled with the memories of what once was. Please, there is still time for prevention in this stage. We don't have to make this land completely and utterly unlivable for generations to come. We have a duty and a responsibility to do right by our children whose future we're borrowing from. The cost of fracking is too great. In fact, I believe that it is the duty of the Navajo County Board of Supervisors to do everything in their power to protect our way of life. Will the new wave of workers even know how to be responsible in this terrible of a drought? I predict an increase in wildfires since most of them are started by humans. Gas leaks out of the ground will increase the risk of wildfires as well. How safe are leaky gas wells in this kind of heat, with this kind of drought, with our quantity of wildfires? Do we really want to make choices that we can't undo? Would you buy a Maserati that didn't have brakes? Last, I'm not interested in bailing out the oil and gas companies from their shady deals that resemble practices that caused the housing crash of 2008. I want no part of enabling this kind of behavior toward people, plants, animals, the soil, investors, the water, the air, and the future viability of our state. Exploiting everything we need to survive so these companies can get rich and move on is inhumane. Not only will this affect property values, but it will replace our way of life with a living nightmare. What are you going to do to help us, and can you get back our fracking banned in Navajo County? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Test. Appreciate your time. Monty County.
My name is Monty Cunningham. I live at 9119 Downstar Trail. It's been very difficult doing the research on this project in the last 2 weeks. I've cried more than I have in 30 years when I see the destruction that we're creating across the country and the potential destruction that we have here in our area. I'm going to try to not cry today. I'm a healer, I do acupressure, and when I see people that are hurting and that are sick, it affects me deeply. And I know it should be something that we are concerned about in our political decisions. We need to focus on the health of the community and making decisions that relate to 7 generations forward. We have to think about what we're doing now that will affect the future generations. This is an Indian tradition. It's something that we've forgotten. We've lost the connection with the land the Indians have been traditionally a part of. And that's something that when we move here, it's something that I have gained, so that now when I walk out in the morning, I have a dozen rabbits that come around and I feed the rabbits. This morning there was a crow that was up on top of my roof talking to me. It's quiet. The air is clean. When you go out at night, you can see the stars. And that quiet and clean air is a healing effect. We have people from all over the country that have been poisoned that are moving here. We have an environmentally ill country called the EIs that live here, about 40 families that have moved here because of the air quality is the only place that they can live where they can live healthily. We have to support that type of community. When we look at the potential effects of this in Woodruff, we see that the proposed drilling is south of the bridge and north of the bridge. And when we look at the potential trucks that go into the area, we have people reporting across the country that they get 3 trucks per minute that come through the small communities. And these small communities then end up having potentially 4,300 trucks a day, 24/7, coming through the community. Can you imagine what this is going to do to Woodruff? This is going to destroy that small community. Also, those trucks will come through Snowflake because there's only 2 routes to that particular area. So this is something that over the past 2 weeks we've been studying. We proposed a number of things, but we need your help. We need to work with you to say, what can we do? You're our elected officials. You're the people that we've come to first to say, how can we help? What can we do to keep our community healthy? What can we do to protect our air, to protect our water, to protect our environment, our quality of life, and our health? It's up to you for the decisions that you make, and we hope that we can get a helpful hand from you on what we need to do as a community. And we look forward to working with you more on the next board meeting and getting on the agenda. I could say more, but I think I've covered what we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. So those are all of the call to the public requests that I have. I want to thank those of you that came on call to the public and sharing your views on it. I'd ask that we have staff look into some of the issues that we raised today so we can have a